Okay, hey folks, the first thing I want to do is show you this this dovetail saw blade, made by Ridge Carbide. This is the one with the 7-degree angle grind on this too, so that when you tilt this blade to the left, you can get if you make that 7 degrees, this is going to be a flat top and it's going to cut an angle in there, perfect for a dovetail. And this will be used for cutting the tails. Okay, just want to show you a video of these teeth on the Tablesaw dovetail grind on these teeth. So you can see the teeth are all angled. I've got this blade tilted over. That's the angle of the teeth right there. So that's the blade I need to put on there. I'll put that on there and then come back to you. I can't do a zero clearance plate because this is zero clearance doesn't work when you put the blade on an angle. So this will be on an angle to begin with. So get that nut off of there. The normal blade that I use is a 3/32 wide blade, not an 1/8 inch. It's called a thin curve blade, and it doesn't waste as much material, and it cuts very easily. An 1/8 of an inch is a little more difficult to push through some hardwoods and things like that. So I like using the 3/32 of an inch blade. So there's the yep, that's right. That's the dovetail blade, specially ground. And I'm also going to need to change this riving knife, because the riving knife is made for the width of the blade, and this is a full 1/8 of an inch thick. So I'll need to switch that over. Okay, all right, this is tight. Put these up over here. Let me find this other riving knife. Here it is. So this riving knife comes off by a pretty easy method. This is the thin one. I had to put a little brass shim on there in order to get that to fit and tighten up on it good. This is the normal one that comes with the saw. So this is going to go like this. Let me put down, so that's the riving knife now. And I have to use this is the non-zero clearance, the standard insert that comes with this saw, and you can see it's pretty wide, but that's perfect for this situation. And so now I need to get the blade angle set right, and I'm going to do that. Let's see, I need the angle gauge here. And where is my bevel? I don't see it there. Oh, here it is. This may be already set at 7 degrees. So what I'm going to do is, this is 5 degrees here, and then the next solid line is 6, the next solid line is 7. So right there, yes, this is perfectly set for 7 degrees. So I'm going to have this sitting right here. And I'm going to raise that blade up pretty high, so I've got a lot of room to know how far to tilt it over. And I'm going to loosen this up. And what I want to do is get I don't want to touch the teeth. I want to just touch the blade itself. So I went a little bit too far. I got to get this perfectly right angled. I'm trying to get the light where it completely disappears all the way up and down. So I think that's set perfectly, and it does indeed say 7 degrees close to there, but that's not a very accurate gauge. This is obviously the most accurate way of doing this. I'm tightening it up, and now the blade angle is set for 7 degrees. Now I need to lower this quite a bit because the depth I want is the depth of this little piece of hardboard. I've got a little piece right here that I'm just going to use to get this thing. And this line right here on this insert is the top dead center of that blade. This is the maximum height of a tooth. So I'm going to put the tooth where it's just in line with that line, and that's what I'm going to measure to as I'm coming down. So I'm going to get it close to this hardboard just by sight, and I'm going to actually get it a little bit below, I think, because I want to be able to come up to it and then tighten it down. And I'm just going to use this 1/4 inch gauge right here. I'm going to set it on top of the little piece of hardboard right there, and then I'm going to use it to slide. I'm pushing down on it fairly good. I'm going to use this to slide over it, and right now it's not touching the blade at all. So I'm going to raise the blade up just a tad at a time until it just kind of scrapes that blade. All right. Can you hear that noise? That's scraping the blade. So I think that's going to be a perfect measurement. So I will tighten it down. We'll do the cut, and then we'll test it with this piece of hardboard right here. So the next thing to do is get the fence set so that I'm cutting on the furthest most piece of the wood. So and I'm going to run it up against the fence like this, and I'm going to use my miter gauge up under here to hold this thing as I'm cutting it. So you know, I'm just looking at this plywood, and both sides look just fine. So I'm just going to leave this up high right here. I'm going to cut on the bottom side of this, and that will be the front of the fence for the jig. Because I've got this line down here, and all I want to do is get this line lined up with the this side right here, so that when I turn it over, it will be cutting on this side. So I cut on this side, I cut on that. Actually, I won't be turning it over quite like that. I'll be turning it around like this once it's done. But all I have to do is worry about this one side to get that just right on the fence. So I want the edge of that blade to sit there. And then I'm going to lock the fence. All right, so I've got that edge of that blade on there, and that's not that critical of a dimension because I'm going to custom fit the insert to fit it. So it'll just be close to 2 inches. And what happens is when I turn this around on the other side, it's cutting exactly the same distance, but on the other side of center. So I'll be cutting this groove, and then when I turn it around, I'll be cutting this groove from the other way like that. So that's how that works. And to clear out the waste on between those two grooves, I'm going to keep moving it by 1/8 of an inch. And let me show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to use a fence that I use sometimes for my bandsaw. It's a magnetic fence, and I'm going to use this as a stop to gauge where this fence is because I'll be moving that more than once. And I'm just going to leave the fence right there, and then I'm going to turn on the magnets to hold it, and now it's not going to move at all. And what that's going to allow me to do is that as I move this fence out, as I start cutting the waste, I can put an 1/8 of an inch, lock it down, cut it both sides, and then pull the fence back, put a 1/4 of an inch, which is 2/8, right there on that fence. And then I can go to a 1/4 plus an 1/8. Now I'm at 3/4. And then I can take a 1/2 inch in there. And now I've got 4/8. And then I can add to the 1/2 inch an 1/8. That'll give me 5/8. And then I can add a 1/4 inch to the 1/2 inch. Now that's 3/4. I think I said 3/4 before. I should have said 3/8. And then I can add an 1/8, and so that's 7/8. And that's almost to the center of this thing. I'll use one more to go over here. So something's beeping, and I'm not sure what it was. That's still recording, fine. And this one looks like it's lost its juice. So, okay, that's recording again. Okay, and this will be, all right, so, and then this will be the 1 inch, which I'll need for the final setting. So all I need is 4 of the setup blocks. Let me move this away now. This goes in the wall right here. And I've got what I need to work with this thing. So I'll move this fence back over against the stop right here. And I'll make my first cut in the bottom of this board. And as I'm cutting through this board, I'm going to be silent. I may do a voiceover once I do that, because it's going to be so loud. I'll have to turn it down in order for you to be able to, so it won't hurt your ears. So, oh, I need to put my hearing protection on. So I've got the outer edges defined on here, and I'm just going to waste out all the rest of it. So this is take me a while. The first thing I'm going to do is move the fence over 1/8 of an inch, and then I'll cut it twice, once on one side, once on the other, and then I'll show it to you, and you'll see how that works. Okay, I just wanted to test the depth of this a little bit. I've got this little piece right here that should be able to slide in there. And it feels good. So it's touching this, and I don't see any light separating that. So that's a perfect depth. So that's the way to do it with the depth. And we'll continue cutting out the rest of this waste. All right, so I've done the 1/2 inch. I need to add an 1/8 of an inch there. Yep, that's correct. But what I said was I'm just going to sand the bottom of this little sanding block just to get a little bit of extra stuff off there. The depth is perfect for doing this. And so the next thing is we're going to do is to cut a piece of this long enough for 6 inches, and we'll use the shooting board and the shooting plane, hand plane, to get up close. So we'll cut it just a tad bit wide where it won't fit in, and then we'll take a few thousandths of an inch off at a time with that shooting board until we get it fitting just right. And by the way, that requires a really sharp plane to be able to do. Now this goes in here because I got a kerf cut in here, but it won't really go in from the other side. Actually, it would that far. That's just still too tight, but that's not long enough anyway, so that's just a scrap. Okay, next time I turn the cameras on, we'll be over at the shooting board and the shooting plane.